coach, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have changed.
I mean, it hasn't changed because I was still coaching when I was assistant coach. It hasn't changed, and I talked to Brian. I told him, I got to hold you accountable. It starts with you first, and if I can hold you accountable in front of the team and doing the right things, then everybody else got to fall in line, fall in place.
When you say I was told that you were, you got on the players, you got on Braun and Ty and them. Now you step into a head coach position. Can that be the team?
More, yeah, more now. Now I think I can really, use my voice because, like I said, I didn't want to overstep my boundaries with Black because, like I said, he did a phenomenal job, and I didn't want to make it look like I was, doing more than I was supposed to. But now I think I got to be even more hard on these guys.
Ty, what have you been able to say to these guys or spend time with these guys since yesterday afternoon?
Today we met before shooting around. And I just talked about, just playing the game the right way, having more space and playing with more pace. And I talked to the guys about, just being able to focus on the moment, on the process. Just by us having a coaching change, doesn't mean we're going to be better. We got to change. So you can bring Phil Jackson in or whoever you want to bring in, but if we don't change as players and as a staff and as a unit, we're not going to be any good. So that's what I talked about. It wasn't about the coaching change. It was about us changing.
Ty, go ahead.
You mentioned Phil, and I know you connected to the Van Gundy's and to Doc Rivers. How have those guys influenced you?
Oh, a lot, tremendous. Doc, I looked at him as a father figure. He took me under his wing, brought me into Boston, gave me my first chance to coach, and everything I do is Doc Rivers. Except for play golf. But everything else I do is, Doc Rivers driven. I talked to Phil; he's been great, and another big influence in my life has been, Jerry West. I talk to him a lot. So I have a lot of great people in my corner. They know what I'm about. They know who I am. They know my character. So I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Are you going to hire someone to replace you to do your old role?
I haven't really, thought about it. Yesterday was like a surprise. It was everything happened so fast, and getting 716 text messages and phone calls, and it was just crazy. I couldn't even turn the TV on, because, like I said, it's a sad day because you don't want to see a guy ever get fired, especially a guy that brought you in and said I can, have a defense and do this and do that. And, it was a depressing day. But, it was a good day for me, but it was a bad day, for Black, and I don't like to see that happen.
Often assistant coaches are in the past anyway, were players' friends,
Yeah.
confidants. That wasn't that way with you so much because you had to be the corrector on defense.
Well, I think it's a fine line. I think you got know where to draw the line. When it comes to that. A lot of these guys I played against and played with. I played with Richard Jefferson in Milwaukee. I played against LeBron. I played against Mo. I played against James Jones. So, just being around and being around the game for so long. And I think being so young that you're going to run into that, but I don't think it's a problem at all.
I think it's fair to say this was a unique situation from the start, you being the runner-up to the job and you taking the job. What appealed to you about this job in the first place? Because LeBron wasn't here when you took it. Why did you want to come here and leave a fairly stable winning situation with Doc in LA?
Well, just like I said, talking to Doc, talking to Jerry West, talking to Brian Shaw and those guys, they were just like, and even Doc said it's a chance for you to spread your wings, show you can get out from underneath me, you can go do your own thing. I had a chance to get the associate head coach title, and they paid me a lot of money. So all those things add up together. It looked like a great fit to me.
Ty, you said that Coach Black did a phenomenal job here, but you said you wanted to do it better. What specific things do you want to do better than maybe he did?
No, well, he asked what we want to do different, and I just said we got to do some things better. And
what do you want to do better?
I think guys got to play harder at times. We got to get back on defense. We got to move the ball. We can't play one-on-one isolation basketball, which Black preached all the time. And guys just we have great ISO guys. We have great one-on-one players. So it's kind of hard to you got to be able to. It's a fine line. Like I said, like last year we was number one in offensive efficiency. But we played a lot of ISO basketball. So you got LeBron, you have Kyrie, you have Kevin, who's a great post player. So that's considered an ISO. So it's just tough. It's a fine line. So I just got to find that line and just try to stay with it and just preach to our guys ball movement, execution, and then we just got to figure it out.
I feel like you have the right mix of players to get where you guys want to be. I feel like there's going to be a move that would be necessary.
I think we have the right mix. I think we can play small, we can play big, we can go with a defensive unit, we can go with an offensive unit. I just think we have a great nucleus. I just think it's my job to put everything together.
So has Kevin Love been utilized appropriately?
I think so. Like I said, when you're dealing with three guys that we have at that magnitude, you have to sacrifice. And I talked to Kevin today. I talked to him just talking about I'm going to use him more at the elbows. Try to run some more elbow stuff. They ran in Minnesota for him. I'm going to try to get him into post situations where he's more comfortable. And like I said, it's my job to do that. But I think he's been utilized fantastically. I just think that Kevin has to understand that it's going to be it's a little different. It's going to be a change. It's going to be a sacrifice. So I talked to him today. He understood it, and we're just going to try to move forward with that.
There's been a characterization by virtually all of us. LeBron didn't really listen to Black. You see it sometimes, and you hear it other times. Does he need to listen to you more or better than he listened to the previous coach?
What do you mean by listen?
Just,
Huh?
I mean, what it sounds like. Did he listen to David? Did he take instruction from him? Did he try to implement what David said, or was he doing?
No, it wasn't like that at all. I mean, you listen to Black, but I've been around a lot of all-stars, a lot of superstars with Shaq, Kobe, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and when you draw up a play, and like, no, well, let's do this. Let me come out this way, or let's do it this way. It happens all the time. I mean, and tend to blow it out of proportion, but that happens all the time when you're dealing with star players and you run a lot of plays for certain guys, and they might want the ball on this side, or no, I saw this on the floor, let's run this. So, I mean, it's going to happen to me too. It happened to Phil Jackson. It happened to Doc. Paul used to do it all the time. Rondo used to do it all the time. So that's just the nature of the game.
What's the best piece of advice you got over the voicemails the last 24 hours? Doc or Jerry?
I just talking to Doc. Doc just said, embrace it. It's a tough time right now. He said, I think you're ready. You built for this. You've been groomed very well. And he said, just enjoy it. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Just enjoy the moment. Embrace it. And just have fun. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And we'll just see how it ends up.
Are there any one or two things fans will see at tonight's game that will immediately strike them as different from the way it was happening when you were the assistant head coach versus tonight when you're the head coach?
I hope so. That's the plan, just to get more ball movement and body movement. But like I said, again, when you have great ISO players like we have LeBron and Kyrie, it makes it difficult. But so I got to just do a better job of putting those guys in situations where we can get that, and then they can get to that at the end of the shot clock or after we done ran some sets to try.
Quick follow about rotation. There's always a lot of question when you have as much talent as deep as this roster goes. There's always going to be those three guys who are getting the question. I don't understand why they're not playing more.
Right.
Whether it's Andy, Mose, somebody like that, RJ. Will that be different tonight? Will you juggle the rotation a little differently?
Well, I talked to the guys early in the meeting. I just told them I want to try to play 10 guys. Our goal is the long haul of getting to the playoffs, and then we can kind of shorten the rotation. But as of now, I want to try to play 10 guys so that way we can keep guys ready so we won't run into the same problem we ran into last year in the finals where guys went down and the guys that we played, they didn't have a lot of flow to their game because they hadn't played in a while. So I'm going to try to look at it tonight, just trying to play 10 guys, get Mo back in the rotation, letting him, Deli, and Shump play a lot together. We can have 3 ball handles on the floor. And I'm just going to see, I'm just going to be a working process.
Any changes?
No. Just like you have an offensive coordinator, are you going to handle the offense?
I'm going to handle the offense. Larry Drew's going to help me with the offense, and so is Jim Borland. So it's going to be a collective thing. But I'm
still in charge of defense?
Yeah, as of right now. It's a lot, but I can handle it. And I just got to, be able to delegate to, some of my assistants. We have great assistants, so it'll be fine.
Any changes to the starting lineup?
No, sir. No, sir.
Last two, after the shock of yesterday, now reality sets in, and the recent history of coaches, you realize you have to win.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I'll be next. I know how it works, and then that's my goal. I'm just, I'm trying to win a championship. That's my goal. And if, ownership, they don't see fit, and then, they'll make a change if they have to. But, right now I'm just happy that Dan Gilbert and those guys had confidence and faith in me to try to get this job done. That shows a lot of confidence in a young coach, first-time coach, and I just got to make the most of it.
Last one. Ty, what do you think your greatest skill is in terms of people management or relatability?
I think that's my best attribute is just being able to communicate with guys, being able to talk to guys, and being able to manage guys' personalities. You can't treat everybody the same way, and I know that. I've been a player, and I see what it takes, and I know what it takes. And a lot of times you're not going to be able to play 13 guys, and we have 13, 14 guys that can really play, and it's not going to happen. And I think the biggest thing is me being an ex-player, just communicate that. When I got to Orlando, Stan Van Gundy told me, listen, you might not play Ty. And it was hard, but it was reality, and I can appreciate it because I know where he's coming from instead of not communicating. So I just got to do a good job of communicating with these guys, and we just got to continue to move forward.
Great. No, that's all. We're all set. We're all set.
I heard
We're
it.
good. Thank you. We're good. Thank you.